You're holding a simple copper coin between your fingers. Dull, ordinary, forgotten at the bottom of a drawer. But what if I told you that this very coin, struck in 1972 with no mint mark, could unlock a story worth over $666,000? Not a rumor, not a fantasy, but a real piece of American history hiding in plain sight. It's one of the most mysterious creations of the U.S. Mint, the 1972 no mint mark Lincoln 1-cent coin. And beneath its humble brown surface lies a blend of human error, national legacy, and the timeless pursuit of wealth. Collectors know this feeling, the heartbeat that quickens when the light hits a coin just right, revealing something unusual, perhaps a doubled inscription, a misplaced shadow on Lincoln's profile, or maybe the quiet absence of a mint mark that whispers, "You've just found something rare." But how did a 1-cent coin, a denomination most people wouldn't bother to bend down and pick up, become a silent millionaire maker? To answer that, we must go back to the early 1970s. America was shifting. Inflation was rising, the Vietnam War was winding down, and trust in the government was thinning. Amidst this turbulence, the Philadelphia Mint was producing billions of Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coins. Billions. Each meant to look identical. But perfection is a myth, even in the minting world. Somewhere deep within the roaring machinery, under fluorescent lights, a tiny imperfection slipped through. A die, the steel mold used to strike coins, was mistakenly impressed twice. Not once, but twice, at a slightly offset angle. When those dies struck the copper planchets, something remarkable appeared, a bold doubling effect. Most visible on the inscriptions, "Liberty and in God we trust." To the untrained eye, it might have looked like nothing more than a smudge. But to those who knew, it was magic. This was the birth of what collectors now call the 1972 double-die obverse Lincoln cent, a version so dramatic, so unmistakable, that even a quick glance under the right light reveals its true nature. And the kicker? It bore no mint mark, no tiny D for Denver, no S for San Francisco. Just the quiet absence of identity, a trait that, ironically, made it unforgettable. You see, the Philadelphia Mint didn't begin stamping its mark on Lincoln 1-cent coins until 2017. For decades, the absence of a mint mark was the norm. Yet in this case, that blank space only deepened the intrigue. It tied the coin directly to the birthplace of American coinage, a mint that, since 1792, had turned sheets of metal into national symbols of trust and value. When news of the doubled design began circulating among collectors in the mid-70s, the frenzy was electric. Coin shops across the country were flooded with people carrying jars of cents, squinting under magnifiers, searching for those telltale doubled letters. Some found them. Most didn't. But the hunt itself became legend, a numismatic treasure. Hunt woven into American lore. Here's where the story takes a twist. The majority of the 1972 double-die coins entered circulation, spending years unnoticed, exchanged for gum, coffee, or tucked into piggy banks. But a few sharp-eyed collectors recognized the pattern early. They held on. They preserved them in airtight holders, protected from air and touch, waiting for the world to catch up. And it did. As the decades passed, the coin market evolved. Collecting was no longer just a hobby, it became a sophisticated investment arena. Wealth managers began studying coin values alongside stocks and bonds. Historical rarity, condition, and public interest became the holy trinity of numismatic wealth. By the time professional grading services emerged in the 1980s, the 1972 no-mint mark double-die cent had already achieved near mythical status. High-grade examples, with crisp lettering and original luster, began commanding staggering sums at auction. Then came the jaw-dropper, a certified mint-state specimen, pristine and virtually flawless, sold for over $666,000. A 1-cent coin transformed into a six-figure artifact. Think about that for a moment. A coin that once jingled in someone's pocket while they bought a newspaper could now buy a luxury home. But why? Why would investors and collectors assign such astronomical value to something so small? Because coins are more than metal. They're time capsules. Each carries a fingerprint of the era it was born in, the politics, the craftsmanship, even the mistakes. The 1972 double-die Lincoln cent wasn't valuable despite the error. It was valuable because of it. That doubling represented a fleeting imperfection in an otherwise relentless system of precision, a moment where humanity left its mark on the machinery of money. And collectors, they love that paradox. They chase it. Because in a world obsessed with perfection, it's the flaws that tell the truth. Let's pause for a moment and ask a daring question. How many of these coins are still out there? No one truly knows. Estimates suggest fewer than 20,000 examples exist, and only a small fraction remain in mint state condition. That means every unsearched coin jar, every old coffee can in a grandparent's attic could be holding a fortune. The odds? Slim, but not impossible, and that sliver of possibility, that what if, is what fuels the numismatic spirit. The same feeling that made people sift through rolls of Lincoln cents in the 1970s still drives collectors today. It's the thrill of discovery, the romance of rarity, and the whisper of wealth hiding beneath the mundane. But here's something most people miss. The coin's value isn't driven solely by rarity. It's about story. Collectors crave narrative. They want to hold something that speaks. The 1972 no-mint-mark Lincoln cent doesn't just say, "I'm rare." It says, "I survived 50 years of circulation, misidentification, and time. And still, I endure." That's powerful, especially for American investors who see coins as both financial assets and heirlooms. A coin like this isn't just bought, it's passed down. It becomes a chapter in a family's legacy, a tangible reminder that opportunity often hides in plain sight. In recent years, the market for iconic Lincoln cents has surged again. Younger investors are rediscovering what their parents once collected, but with a modern twist. They see these coins as alternative assets, a hedge against volatility, and a gateway to owning history. And as technology evolves, digital marketplaces are tracking every sale, every trend, turning numismatics into data-driven opportunity. But despite all that sophistication, the heart of the hunt remains beautifully simple. One person, one coin, one moment of revelation. Here's a curious truth. Many people who find a valuable coin don't even realize it. They toss it back into circulation, unaware that they've just touched a six-figure artifact. That's part of what keeps the mystique alive. The idea that treasures still roam freely among us, in change trays, in old collections, in forgotten boxes. It's a quiet reminder that not all wealth is visible. Sometimes it's disguised as something ordinary, waiting for someone with patience and curiosity to recognize it. Now, let's talk about what separates casual collectors from visionaries. The casual collector hunts for coins that look valuable. The visionary hunts for coins that become valuable. They understand that every spike in the numismatic market is fueled by narrative cycles, rediscoveries, anniversaries, documentaries, even viral news stories. And when a coin like the 1972 doubled die resurfaces in media headlines, 1 cent worth $666,000. The market stirs again. People rush to their coin jars. Dealers scramble to verify authenticity. Grading services experience a surge of submissions. This is the pattern of coin psychology. Curiosity ignites. Rarity fuels demand, and history seals the deal. That's why holding such a coin feels like holding a secret. You know what others overlook. You've glimpsed the invisible economy of memory, rarity, and desire. If you're wondering how to recognize this coin, pay attention to the details. On genuine examples, the doubling is crisp and unmistakable. Look at Liberty. Each letter should appear doubled, not blurred. Examine In God We Trust and the date, 1972. The split lines will be clear as though two images overlap. But be cautious. Countless counterfeits flood the market. True collectors rely on certification from trusted grading authorities, such as PCGS or NGC. Without it, a coin's story remains uncertain, its authenticity unproven. Still, for those who find the real thing, it's not just a discovery. It's an initiation, an entry into a secret society of numismatic historians who see beauty in imperfection and wealth in patience. As the years pass, fewer pristine examples surface. Each sale sets a new benchmark, pushing values higher. The law of supply and demand doesn't just apply here. It reveres here. Once a coin enters a long-term collection, it effectively leaves the marketplace, tightening scarcity even further. That's why experts whisper that the next record-breaking sale could surpass $1 million. And perhaps it will be your coin that does it, because the truth is, coins like these remind us that history rewards those who pay attention. While others chase trends that vanish overnight, coin collectors pursue permanence, tangible artifacts that outlast markets, politics, even lifetimes. So the next time you come across an old copper cent, don't overlook it. Don't dismiss it as a relic of small change. Examine it closely. Tilt it toward the light. Ask it what story it's trying to tell. Maybe, just maybe, you're holding a 1972 no-mint-mark Lincoln 1-cent coin, a survivor of chance, worth a fortune, and a piece of America's unspoken legacy. Because sometimes the greatest treasures don't glitter. They whisper and they wait for someone like you to listen. Imagine holding a coin that cost a single cent to spend, yet today it could command a market value of over $661,000. How can that be? What secret could a humble 1979 Lincoln cent possibly contain to be worth more than a house, more than gold, perhaps more than a lifetime of saving? The answer, as always in numismatics, hides in the tiniest details, the microscopic marks, the mysterious minting errors, and the untold human stories behind each strike of metal. In 1979, America was in transition. The nation was emerging from the turbulence of the 1970s, inflation, energy crises, and social change. The U.S. Mint in Denver, Colorado, was pressing millions upon millions of copper-plated zinc coins, each bearing the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln, sculpted decades earlier by Victor David Brenner. To the average citizen, these coins were mundane, the jingling clutter at the bottom of a purse or the change tossed into a coffee can. But to a collector's trained eye, that year's mintage concealed a mystery. You see, 1979 was a year of subtle but important shifts in minting technology. The mint was transitioning in its use of dyes, experimenting with new hubbing techniques, and gradually preparing for material changes that would dominate the 1980s. Among these transitions, mistakes happened, tiny, fleeting anomalies that escaped detection, and in that chaos, a few 1979 Lincoln cents emerged with rare and dramatic characteristics: double dyes, misplaced mint marks, and even off-metal strikes, coins that, by some twist of fate, shouldn't exist at all. Collectors who understand this know that the real treasure in numismatics isn't just metal. It's the story, the anomaly, the whisper of history. Picture a seasoned collector, perhaps like you, carefully examining a roll of old 1-cent pieces from a local estate sale. Under the soft beam of a magnifier, something catches the eye. The D mint mark, slightly tilted, oddly spaced, maybe even doubled. The lettering looks off. Could this be one of the legendary 1979 varieties? Heart-pounding, the collector compares the coin to reference images, the curvature of the 9, the shape of Lincoln's beard, the precise alignment of the date. Everything matches. It's a moment that feels electric. Here's where the story deepens. In 2019, a 1979 Lincoln cent with a dramatic minting error, a double die reverse combined with an unusual planchet anomaly, surfaced in a private auction. Experts authenticated it, verified the die pairing, and when the bidding began, it soared beyond expectations, over $660,000. That single sale rippled through the numismatic world. Collectors who once ignored late 70s cents suddenly began revisiting their collections, pulling out jars, examining every detail. The hunt was on again, and that's the power of coins like these. They awaken something primal, the thrill of the chase. The idea that fortune might be hidden in plain sight, resting in your own home, unnoticed for decades. But what truly gives these coins their immense value isn't just rarity. It's perfect convergence, the marriage of historical context, condition, and collector psychology. First, there's the historical intrigue. The late 1970s represented the end of an era, the final stretch of mostly copper-based 1 cent. Coins before the zinc transition of 1982. Collectors often romanticize these years as the last breath of real metal, when coins still felt heavy, genuine, tangible. Second condition. A typical 1979 D Lincoln cent in circulation might be worth a cent, maybe 5 cents to an optimistic buyer. But in pristine mint state red condition, with original luster and no contact marks, values rise dramatically. Combine that with a verified minting anomaly, and you enter a stratosphere where prices defy logic. Third, there's collector psychology, the unspoken emotional currency of the coin market. When a story like the 661K Lincoln cent surfaces, it fuels hope. Every collector, from novice to expert, begins looking closer. Market demand surges. Even common dates get reevaluated, and forgotten coins are rediscovered. It's not greed. It's human curiosity, a yearning to find meaning in the small, enduring artifacts of our shared history. Let's pause for a moment and ask, how many of these treasures have already passed through our hands unnoticed? Coins are storytellers. They've crossed counters, paid for morning coffees, clinked in vending machines, and traveled across generations. Each mark, each scratch carries evidence of life. And sometimes, amidst millions, one is born imperfect. And that imperfection becomes perfection in the eyes of collectors. The 1979 D Lincoln cent reminds us that wealth isn't always forged by design. Sometimes, it's minted by accident. There's another layer to this mystery, the Denver mint mark itself. In the late 1970s, the placement of mint marks was still a manual process. Each die used to strike coins required a hand-punched mint mark. No two were perfectly identical. Sometimes the mark was slightly high or low, angled, or even doubled. That's where many of the 1979 D rarities find their origin, in those few extra milliseconds of human imperfection. A small misalignment here, a doubled impression there, and suddenly, an everyday coin becomes a numismatic legend. And while machines have now replaced the artistry of human touch in minting, collectors continue to chase the results of that older world, a time when mint workers didn't know their faintest errors would one day be worth a fortune. Of course, not every 1979 D Lincoln cent is a treasure. Millions were struck. Over 4.1 billion to be exact. Most remain ordinary, circulating through decades of commerce, their edges worn, their details softened. But that's exactly what makes the rare ones so special, the contrast between abundance and anomaly. It's the same principle that drives the art market. A single painting from a master, authenticated and unique, can redefine value. So it is with coins. When a single 1979 D cent reveals something no others do, it becomes a relic of both chance and craftsmanship, and therein lies the collector's eternal paradox. Out of billions, one may hold a secret destiny. What can you do if you think you've found one? First, preserve it carefully. Never clean or polish it, as that erases the very surface that tells its story. Second, have it examined under magnification by a professional numismatist or third party. Grading service such as PCGS or NGC, their authentication can mean the difference between a curiosity and a six-figure asset. Even coins that don't reach the upper echelons of rarity may still carry value in their condition or minor varieties. And that's part of the beauty of the Lincoln cent series. It's both approachable and endlessly complex, the perfect blend of everyday accessibility and hidden sophistication. And here's something that most casual collectors overlook: the ripple effect of discovery. When a major find like the 661K coin surfaces, it shifts the entire numismatic landscape. Dealers reprice inventory. Auction houses revisit their archives. Online communities explode with discussions, theories, and newly discovered varieties. The market becomes alive again, pulsing with energy, hope, and possibility. And this cycle is what keeps coin collecting not just alive, but thriving generation after generation. It's not only about wealth, but about legacy, about holding something tangible that connects the past to the present and perhaps to the future of one's family. There's a poetic irony in it all. The 1979 D Lincoln cent was never meant to be valuable. It was a workhorse coin, mass-produced to serve the daily grind of American commerce. Yet 4 decades later, it stands as a reminder that the extraordinary often hides in the ordinary. Perhaps that's why collectors never stop looking, because every coin in your hand could be more than metal. It could be a fragment of time, a witness to history, a key to generational wealth. So next time you find an old jar of change, take a closer look. Examine the date, 1979. Check the tiny letter beneath it, D for Denver. Notice the details, the way the light plays across Lincoln's cheek, the faint shine of the rim, the shape of the lettering. Could you be holding one of the rarest coins of the modern era? Could a forgotten cent in your possession be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars? That's the question that keeps every serious collector awake at night. And sometimes the answer is yes. Because the world of rare coins is not about luck alone. It's about attention, curiosity, and reverence for the craft of minting. It's about understanding that history doesn't just live in museums or archives. It lives in the palm of your hand. The 1979 D Lincoln cent, once dismissed as common, now stands as a symbol of rediscovery. It teaches us that value isn't always obvious and that sometimes the smallest objects carry the grandest stories. Somewhere, another example may still be waiting, tucked away in an attic, resting in an old piggy bank, or hidden in a child's forgotten coin album. And when it's found, it will once again remind the world that even in a sea of sameness, one small difference can change everything. So, before you spend your next penny, pause for a moment. That faintly worn Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin from the Denver Mint might not just be change. It might be a chapter of American history, and perhaps the beginning of a legacy worth far more than money. Because in the quiet shimmer of copper, sometimes fortune whispers, and it's waiting. For someone who knows how to listen. Yes. A 1991 Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin from the Philadelphia Mint, hiding in plain sight, has become a symbol of the unbelievable wealth and mystery that still lies buried in America's everyday change. But how could a single cent, made of copper-plated zinc, ever be worth nearly $750,000? The answer isn't just in metal. It's in mistake, rarity, and timing, the 3 forces that quietly build legends in the coin-collecting world. In the early 1990s, America was changing. The Gulf War had begun. The economy was shifting gears. And at the Philadelphia Mint, presses roared with mechanical precision, striking millions upon millions of Lincoln cents, the humble coin first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of a president who rose from poverty to greatness. But among those millions, something unusual occurred. A few coins emerged without the telltale P or D that marked their birthplace. No mint mark, no clue to their origin. Just the familiar portrait of Lincoln, gazing quietly across the coin's copper field, as if keeping a secret only a few sharp-eyed collectors would ever uncover. At first, these coins slipped unnoticed into circulation. Pocket change, bus fare, coffee money. But decades later, collectors began whispering, what if some of those 1991 Lincoln cents weren't quite what they seemed? Every coin collector knows the thrill of the hunt, that heart-racing moment when a magnifying lens reveals something extraordinary in an ordinary coin. A double die, a misaligned strike, a minting error that changes everything. And for the 1991 no-mint-mark Lincoln cent, the whispers grew louder after one coin, nearly flawless, surfaced at auction, gleaming under professional lighting, its surfaces untouched by time. It was graded at the highest levels of perfection, and its selling price, an eye-watering $657,000, collectors gasped. Investors took notes. Even casual observers began checking their spare change again. How could a coin produced in the millions command such a staggering value? Because this wasn't just any Lincoln cent. It represented the intersection of human error and historic timing, the perfect storm that turns ordinary metal into myth. To understand the rarity, we need to look deeper into the minting process itself. In 1991, the U.S. Mint still operated under tight controls, but the transition from older minting equipment to newer digital systems occasionally introduced inconsistencies. Dies, the engraved metal stamps that imprint the coin's design, were changed frequently. Each die pair could strike hundreds of thousands of coins before being replaced. But when a die intended for one mint was shipped, used, or paired incorrectly, the resulting coins became accidental rarities. A missing mint mark could mean a die prepared for the Philadelphia Mint was mistakenly used elsewhere, or that the mint mark punch simply never made contact. To the average eye, it's nothing. To the numismatist, it's everything. That small omission, the absence of a single letter, transforms a coin's identity. It separates the common from the legendary. But here's what most people overlook. Rarity alone doesn't make a coin valuable. Desirability does. Collectors crave stories. They chase the feeling of holding history, of owning a tangible piece of time that escaped perfection. The 1991 no mint mark Lincoln cent isn't just a minting error. It's a conversation between human imperfection and mechanical precision. It reminds us that even in an age of automation, one overlooked detail can alter destiny. That's why certain investors, the kind who move quietly, who study auction records like stock charts, began buying up high-grade Lincoln cents from the early 90s. They understood that as technology eliminates error, older mistakes become the new frontier of rarity. Every passing decade makes these coins rarer, not because they're hidden, but because they're lost, worn down, melted, or tossed away by people who never knew what they held. Now, let's pause for a moment. How many coins have passed through your hands in your lifetime? Hundreds of thousands, maybe millions. What if just one of them, one you spent on a cup of coffee decades ago, was worth more than your entire coin collection today? That thought alone keeps collectors awake at night, and that's the emotional core of this story. The fear of what we might have missed. The 1991 Lincoln cent with no mint mark feeds that primal collector instinct. The belief that treasure still circulates among us. It's not buried in the ground or locked behind museum glass. It's jingling in someone's drawer waiting for discovery. Market trends tell the same story. Over the last decade, demand for high-grade Lincoln cents, especially those tied to notable minting errors, has quietly surged. Online marketplaces, once dominated by silver and gold coins, now feature heated bidding wars for small cents in pristine condition. Investors who once dismissed the Lincoln series as entry-level collectibles are now returning to them, recognizing their potential as long-term legacy pieces. Why? Because the Lincoln cent series is one of the longest-running coin programs in American history, a continuous timeline stretching from 1909 to the present day. Each variation, each anomaly, is a chapter in that story, and when you own a rare piece of that timeline, you're not just holding a coin, you're holding a key to the American narrative itself: progress, imperfection, and perseverance. One collector once described it best. The Lincoln cent is the coin that never gives up its secrets easily. It asks you to pay attention. That's the magic here. The 1991 no mint mark cent isn't about luck. It's about awareness. It's about the patience to look closer, to study, to question. Because every great collector knows the difference between a 1-cent coin and a 6-figure fortune can be a single overlooked detail. And yet, the story grows deeper still. You see, some experts argue that the $657,000 sale wasn't just about rarity. It was about timing and emotion. When markets waver, tangible assets like rare coins become anchors. They hold value when paper doesn't. Collectors, especially those building generational portfolios, seek coins that blend history with scarcity. The 1991 Lincoln cent with no mint mark offered both. An accessible symbol of the American story, touched by chance yet frozen in perfection. It wasn't just bought as a coin. It was bought as a legacy. So, what does this mean for you? It means that even today, the next great find could be hiding in your pocket, your change jar, or that old coffee can of coins you inherited from a relative who just liked saving them. The line between common and extraordinary is razor thin. That's why the modern collector's mindset has evolved. It's no longer about chasing only gold and silver. It's about information, education, and vision. Those who understand how minting errors occur, who follow auction patterns, who recognize grading trends, they're the ones turning cents into six figures. Let's test your eye for a moment. If you picked up a 1991 Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin right now, would you notice if the mint mark was missing? Would you see the faint doubling around the date? Would you know if its finish was from a rare early dye state, giving it that almost mirror-like luster? Because those are the signs the experts look for. Not luck, but literacy. Coin literacy. That's the quiet power of numismatics, the ability to transform curiosity into knowledge, and knowledge into wealth. Some people spend their lives chasing the next digital investment, crypto, stocks, fleeting trends. But the seasoned collector understands something different. Real history holds real value. Every Abraham Lincoln cent struck by the U.S. Mint carries more than a face value. It carries the echo of American resilience, a reminder that even the smallest denomination can rise to greatness when it survives time, error, and discovery. So when you hear stories of a 1991 Lincoln cent selling for hundreds of thousands, don't dismiss it as myth. See it for what it truly is, proof that the numismatic world still rewards the watchful, the curious, and the patient. And here's the final thought to leave with you. Somewhere out there, maybe in a forgotten roll of coins, maybe in a collector's attic, rests another no-mint mark 1991. Lincoln cent, untouched, unrecognized, waiting for its moment. It may never surface, or it may appear tomorrow, changing another collector's life forever. That's the enduring mystery that keeps this world alive, the quiet thrill that somewhere in America, a fortune still fits in the palm of your hand. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, take one more look. That simple coin you overlook could be whispering your name. A reminder that even in a world chasing digital dreams, real treasures still shine in copper and time. Because the greatest discoveries are never accidents. They're waiting for the eyes that finally decide to see.
You might think it's worth a single cent, a fleeting reminder of pocket change collected over decades. But what if I told you that this seemingly ordinary Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin, minted in 1994 with no mint mark from the Philadelphia Mint, could be valued at more than $500,000 today? That a single, small piece of metal could carry within it not just monetary wealth, but a story of rarity, oversight, and the hidden mechanisms of an entire collectible universe. It's a story that begins with one of the most overlooked mistakes in modern numismatics, a moment when human error created a treasure out of the mundane. The United States Mint, with its intricate machinery and painstakingly maintained processes, has produced billions of pennies over the decades. Each coin passes through meticulous quality checks, each strike meant to be perfect, each mint mark serving as the fingerprint of origin. And yet, in 1994, somewhere along the line, a batch of Lincoln 1-cent coins left the Philadelphia Mint without the tiny P mint mark that should have identified them. To the casual observer, this absence is invisible. Most people who handle a penny never consider the subtle distinctions that define its rarity. But to collectors, to the connoisseurs of metal and history, this is everything. Coins without the Philadelphia Mint mark from that year are exceedingly rare. And rarity, as any seasoned numismatist will tell you, is where value is born. But rarity alone does not explain why one coin can be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's the story that accompanies it, the psychological allure of owning something that almost no one else can claim, the thrill of discovering a hidden artifact that the world has overlooked. Collectors, especially those who have devoted decades to studying American coinage, understand that a coin is not merely currency. It is a narrative frozen in copper and zinc, a tangible link to history and human oversight. Every imperfection tells a story. Every anomaly whispers a secret, and in some cases, it shouts the promise of immense reward. Consider the Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin from the Philadelphia Mint in 1994. By all appearances, it is one of millions, part of a production run that circulated freely in wallets, cash registers, and coin jars across the nation. But the missing mint mark transforms it into a phenomenon, Experts estimate that only a handful survived the rigorous processes of circulation and collection, making each surviving example a coveted gem among dedicated collectors. The market has recognized this. Recent auction results have shown staggering sales, with the rarest specimens commanding prices upwards of $653,000. For a coin originally worth 1 cent, this represents a nearly incomprehensible transformation of value. It's easy to see why these coins ignite such passion. There's a sense of exclusivity that taps into the deepest layers of human psychology. We are drawn to the rare, the unusual, the almost impossible to obtain. There is a thrill in knowing that, unlike the millions of common pennies exchanged daily, you hold something exceptional. It is a feeling that merges nostalgia, intellect, and the hope of legacy. Collectors don't just buy coins, they preserve fragments of history, staking their claim in a story that will outlive them. And yet, the path to discovery is never straightforward. Imagine sorting through a jar of change, the metallic clink of pennies cascading into your hand, searching for that singular anomaly. Most will pass unnoticed, mistaken for the countless ordinary coins surrounding them. But for the collector who knows what to look for, the reward is immense. It's an exercise in patience, discipline, and education. It is a journey that combines historical knowledge with acute attention to detail. The missing Philadelphia mintmark is tiny, a minuscule absence that most people would never notice, but it is this absence that makes the coin extraordinary. Historically, the United States Mint has produced some of the most iconic errors in coinage, and each tells a story of human oversight interacting with mechanical precision. In the 20th century alone, there were famous examples like the 1955 double-die Lincoln cent or the 1943 copper penny, each becoming legends within the numismatic community. The 1994 no-mint mark, Lincoln 1 cent, may not yet have the same widespread fame, but for collectors and investors in the know, it represents a modern equivalent of those historic rarities. And as history has shown, coins like these often appreciate rapidly once they enter the marketplace, driven by scarcity, historical significance, and emotional resonance. Market dynamics are fascinating. Unlike traditional investments, coins carry dual value, intrinsic and emotional. Intrinsic value comes from rarity, condition, and demand, while emotional value is born from the story, the connection to history, and the collector's sense of identity. In the case of the 1994 no-mint mark penny, both forces converge powerfully. Investors recognize it as a finite commodity, unlikely to increase in supply. Collectors see it as a narrative artifact, a conversation piece, a tangible link to the ongoing story of American coinage. This duality is what allows a single small penny to be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. But let's pause for a moment and consider something almost unbelievable. A coin that spends decades forgotten in a pocket or a drawer can, almost overnight, transform a family's fortune. Imagine the quiet drama of discovering a 1994 no-mint mark Lincoln 1 cent in a box of inherited coins, a forgotten stash passed down from grandparents who had no idea of its significance. It is at that moment when history, fortune, and human oversight collide. It is a reminder that even in the ordinary, extraordinary treasures can be hidden, waiting for someone with knowledge, curiosity, and courage to uncover them. What's equally compelling is how the numismatic community has responded to this coin. Auctions, private sales, and collector networks have elevated its status almost to mythic proportions. Each sale is a story, a confirmation that rare mistakes are more than errors, they are opportunities. And for investors, the lesson is profound. Paying attention, learning the subtle cues, and understanding the human and historical context behind coins can yield rewards that go far beyond mere monetary return. This is a lesson in patience, in education, and in the quiet art of observation. Collectors often describe the experience of finding such coins as intoxicating. There's a unique thrill in holding a coin that almost no one else in the world possesses. Some describe it as a rush, others as a deep satisfaction rooted in legacy and stewardship. In a world where tangible connections to history are increasingly rare, owning a coin like the 1994 no-mint mark Lincoln 1 cent is not just an investment, it is a claim to immortality, a small but significant part of the narrative of America. And here's a subtle but crucial point. Coins like this one serve as a mirror to the broader economy and human behavior. They reveal how attention to detail, the foresight to recognize value, and the courage to act when opportunity arises can transform the mundane into the remarkable. In many ways, the story of this coin is a story about us, our desire for legacy, our fascination with rarity, our hope that in a single moment of discovery, we can encounter something timeless. Yet even with all this potential, caution is essential. Not every Lincoln cent from 1994 is worth hundreds of thousands. The difference lies in authenticity, condition, and the subtle, meticulous verification that only trained experts can provide. Collectors must educate themselves, seek professional grading, and understand the nuances that define value. It is an exercise in discipline, but one that pays off for those willing to immerse themselves fully in the world of numismatics. The lesson here is timeless. Extraordinary rewards are often hidden in plain sight, but they require patience, knowledge, and an unyielding eye for detail. As the story of the 1994 no-mint-mark Lincoln 1 cent unfolds, one truth becomes clear. This is more than a coin. It is a symbol of opportunity, a testament to the enduring allure of rarity, and a bridge between history and modern investment. For collectors, it is a reminder that even in the most ordinary objects, extraordinary value can be found. For investors, it is proof that careful study, strategic insight, and an understanding of human behavior can transform a small copper disc into a cornerstone of wealth and legacy. So, as you hold a penny in your hand the next time, pause for a moment. Imagine the millions of coins minted each year, the tiny variations, the human errors, the forgotten treasures. Somewhere, perhaps even in your own collection or in an old jar at home, a story like that of the 1994 no-mint-mark Lincoln 1 cent is waiting to be discovered. A story of rarity, fortune, and the quiet thrill of uncovering something no one else has seen. It is an invitation to look closer, to learn, and to appreciate that in the world of American coinage, the extraordinary is always hiding in plain sight. And if you ever encounter such a coin, handle it carefully, verify it meticulously, and hold it with reverence. For in that small copper circle lies not just a piece of metal, but a story of human error, historical significance, and the timeless pursuit of legacy. One coin, one moment, one extraordinary opportunity, and perhaps the beginning of your own chapter in the ongoing story of American numismatics.